What does it mean when a Nobel Peace Prize medal crosses the table in the Oval Office just weeks after Maduro was taken out of Caracas by US Delta Force? That single object now sits at the center of a power struggle involving oil, legitimacy, and the future of an entire country, with consequences far beyond Venezuela's borders. If this moment hardens into a new political reality, Venezuela's long stalemate could finally break. If it collapses, the country risks sliding deeper into fragmentation. And if it succeeds unexpectedly, it could redraw how regime change, recognition, and resources are managed in the modern global order. To understand why this matters, you have to step back into Venezuela's long crisis. For more than a decade, the country has lived under overlapping emergencies: economic collapse, mass migration, political repression, and international sanctions. Since 2013, when Nicolás Maduro succeeded Hugo Chavez, Venezuela's GDP has shrunk by more than 70%. Oil production, once above 3 million barrels per day, fell below 800,000 at its lowest point. More than 7 million Venezuelans have left the country, the largest displacement in modern Latin American history. María Corina Machado emerged as a central figure in this landscape by positioning herself as an uncompromising opponent of Chavismo. She built support through grassroots organizing, particularly among the diaspora and middle-class voters, and became the symbolic face of the opposition after disputed elections in 2024. Those elections were rejected by much of the opposition and several foreign governments, but they failed to produce a unified international response or an immediate transfer of power. The balance shifted dramatically on January 3rd, when US forces detained Maduro in Caracas and charged him under US drug trafficking statutes. That operation, unprecedented in its scope, removed the de facto head of state overnight. Yet it did not automatically install Machado. Instead, Washington moved cautiously, continuing engagement with Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's former vice president, who assumed the role of acting head of state. This dual-track approach revealed the core tension: moral alignment versus administrative control. It is in that context that Machado walked into the White House carrying her Nobel Peace Prize medal. She had been awarded the prize the previous year for non-violent resistance and advocacy for democratic transition. Nobel rules are clear that the title cannot be transferred, but a medal is a physical object, and symbolism often matters more than statutes. By handing it to Donald Trump, Machado was not changing laureateship. She was making a statement about agency and gratitude, and about who she believes holds decisive power over Venezuela's trajectory. Trump's response was carefully calibrated. Publicly, he praised the gesture and the person. Politically, he avoided endorsing her as Venezuela's next leader. This reflects a calculation rooted in leverage. Since January, the US has moved quickly to reshape Venezuela's oil sector. Sanctions that once froze exports are being selectively relaxed. An American official confirmed the first US-approved sale of Venezuelan oil at roughly $500 million, a signal that energy flows are being reintroduced under new conditions. Oil is not just revenue, it is governance. Whoever controls export licenses, shipping insurance, and payment channels effectively controls the state. By engaging Rodriguez, Washington preserves operational continuity while keeping political outcomes flexible. Machado's visit was therefore not about immediate recognition, but about influencing the direction of that flexibility. What if the US ultimately decides that stability outweighs symbolic alignment? In that scenario, Rodriguez could oversee a managed transition that preserves key institutions, secures oil exports, and delays a full transfer of power. Machado's movement would remain influential but sidelined, potentially radicalizing segments of the opposition and prolonging internal tension. What if the opposite happens, and Washington shifts to fully back Machado after calculating that her support base is sufficient? That could accelerate a clean break with the old system, but it would also risk administrative collapse. Venezuela's ministries, military logistics, and state oil company are still staffed largely by figures loyal to the previous order. A sudden leadership swap without institutional buy-in could disrupt production and provoke internal resistance. These choices ripple outward. In South Asia, energy markets are watching closely. India has historically been a major buyer of Venezuelan crude when sanctions allowed it. A re-entry of Venezuelan oil into global markets at scale could modestly ease price pressures affecting import-dependent economies. In the Middle East, particularly among OPEC members, Venezuela's return complicates quota discipline. Countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia track how Washington uses sanctions relief as a political tool, drawing lessons for their own negotiations. Diplomatically, the episode reinforces a broader pattern. Recognition is no longer binary. Governments can be partially recognized, conditionally engaged, and economically activated without full political endorsement. That model, tested in Venezuela, could influence how future crises are managed, from failed states to contested elections. The Nobel medal itself becomes a metaphor here. Awards are meant to honor principles, but power decides outcomes. The Nobel Committee emphasized that laureate status is immutable, yet Machado's gesture underscores how symbols can be repurposed in real time. By invoking historical parallels between independence-era alliances and modern diplomacy, she framed Venezuela's struggle as part of a longer narrative of hemispheric freedom, while placing the United States at its center. Trump's own position adds another layer. He has long expressed interest in the Nobel Peace Prize, viewing it as validation on the world stage. Accepting the medal, even informally, allows him to project moral authority without committing to a single political path. At the same time, his administration's actions, from tanker seizures to direct oil sales, demonstrate a pragmatic focus on outcomes rather than optics. Inside Venezuela, reactions are mixed. Opposition supporters see Machado's move as proof of access and relevance. Others worry it signals over-reliance on external actors. Meanwhile, Rodriguez has emphasized diplomacy and sovereignty, presenting herself as a steady hand willing to engage without appearing submissive. Her outreach to Washington, including plans to reopen the Venezuelan embassy, suggests a strategy of normalization under constrained conditions. The risk now is misalignment. If popular expectations inside Venezuela outpace what external actors are willing to deliver, frustration could rise. If oil revenues resume without political reform, old patterns of patronage could re-emerge. And if external pressure intensifies without a clear endgame, Venezuela could remain suspended between transition and stagnation. This moment is therefore less about a medal than about leverage. It is about who sets the timetable, who controls the valves, and who defines legitimacy in a fragmented international system.